It started with a sound that has completely vanished from the modern world. A simple, mechanical turn of a dial. A direct connection to an early digital mainframe that held the electronic keys to absolute wealth. In 1978, bank security wasn't about firewalls, complex encryption algorithms, or artificial intelligence. It was physical. But in the fall of that year, a quiet tech operator executed what is widely considered the most perfect, bloodless bank heist in American history. Vanishing $10.2 million into thin air without ever drawing a weapon or triggering a silent alarm. The target was a financial fortress packed with steel, concrete, and armed guards. They thought their vaults were completely impenetrable. The target was the Security Pacific National Bank in downtown Los Angeles, a multi-billion-dollar institution hollowed out from the inside. The mastermind wasn't a bank robber with a crew. He was a 25-year-old computer systems consultant. Stanley Mark Rifkin, a brilliant data analyst who had been hired by the bank to study the internal layout of their electronic data pathways. Because he was a trusted insider, Stanley was allowed to spend days quietly observing exactly how the institution handled high-value electronic money transfers. Every digital transaction left a heavy paper trail, meticulously logged by back-office staff who trusted the system completely. But Stanley wasn't looking at the paperwork. He was looking for the invisible human gaps that appeared when the main office lines went quiet at night. He possessed the security clearance to step past the outer ring of defenses. But what he truly needed was hidden in the wire room itself. To move billions of dollars across the country every single hour, the bank relied on an intricate regional computer network grid. On October 25th, 1978, Stanley walked calmly straight into the high-security wire transfer room, masquerading as a routine consultant. He stood near the terminals, acting entirely nonchalant, but his eyes were locked on the master workstation. The bank used a specific 4-digit authorization code to verify wire transfers, changing it daily. But the operators, tired of memorizing a new sequence every morning, had written the active password on a slip of paper and taped it directly to the monitor. Stanley simply looked at the glass, memorized the numbers, and casually scribbled the code of the day onto a small piece of scrap paper. He slid the note away, walked out of the building, and just like that, held the absolute keys to the entire financial vault. Stanley didn't need a supercomputer to steal the money. He walked down the block to a standard public payphone booth on a street corner. He dropped a quarter into the slot, picked up the receiver, and dialed the bank's wire transfer desk directly. Posing as an official from the international department, he claimed his team was resolving a system glitch. He calmly read off the stolen 4-digit code with total confidence. The operator didn't think twice. The code matched her terminal monitor note perfectly, confirming the transaction's legitimacy. She executed the transfer. In less than 2 minutes, Stanley hung up the phone. $10,200,000 had instantly vanished from LA, flying clean into a private account in Switzerland. By the time the bank went through its evening data checks, Stanley was thousands of feet in the air, fleeing the United States. He was traveling as an international ghost, well on his way to cash out before anyone even realized the money was missing. He didn't fly to Europe himself. Instead, he let an unsuspecting diamond dealer named Lon Stein land in Geneva, walking straight into the sleek, modern offices of the Soviet diamond firm, Rusalmaz. But digital wealth always leaves an electronic trail. To make himself truly untraceable, Stanley needed to convert the digital cash into an anonymous physical asset. He navigated the historic financial district to meet with specialized brokers, seeking a trade that couldn't be tracked by international wire logs. There was no briefcase of physical cash. Instead, Stanley executed a flawless electronic transfer from the US, forcing a Swiss telex machine to rapidly print out a wire confirmation showing an $8.1 million credit. He took the millions and bought high-grade, raw diamonds, the most concentrated form of physical wealth available on Earth. He dealt directly with Russell Maz, a Soviet-run diamond brokerage. In a single transaction, Stanley traded over $8 million for hundreds of raw gems, a fortune that could fit entirely inside a coat pocket. He meticulously packed the gems, tightly wrapping the velvet pouches to ensure they stayed flat against his body. These were the exact stones, hundreds of high-value diamonds packed into small custom bundles, completely bypassable by the basic security of the era. With the diamond fortune stitched into his clothing, Stanley walked back onto the wet tarmac, boarding a flight back home to the United States. He cleared U.S. Customs without a single red flag. The border guards had no idea they had just let the world's most valuable smuggled treasure pass right through the gates. He picked up his luggage and stepped onto American soil. He had beaten the banks, beaten the computers, and beaten the border. The perfect crime was complete. But the illusion of the perfect crime quickly shattered. The bank didn't discover the missing millions through a routine internal audit. They found out when federal agents abruptly marched directly into the executive boardroom. In a dimly lit bullpen, FBI financial analysts were already aggressively tracing the computer printout ledgers, highlighting the international routing codes. The bank immediately brought in the authorities. Forensic specialists began a grueling manual audit, trying to uncover how a multi-million-dollar transfer was authorized without anyone noticing. Phones rang across federal field offices. The FBI stepped in to lead the manhunt, completely baffled by a theft that involved zero physical entry, zero fingerprints, and zero broken glass. Stanley, meanwhile, was laying low in a smoky lounge, convinced his digital trail was clean. He had outsmarted the tech, but he was about to sabotage himself. With millions in untraceable raw gems, Stanley traveled to Rochester, New York. Inside a dim, wood-paneled office, he pitched the massive fortune to his business associate, Paul O'Brien, masking the stolen wealth as a legitimate overseas real estate play. He explained the sticky note, the payphone call, and the diamonds. He wanted someone to admire his absolute genius, completely unaware that his associate was quietly panicking under the weight of a massive federal secret. The associate knew that being near Stanley meant being tied to the biggest bank heist in American history. Terrified of prison time, the associate slipped out of the restaurant, stepped into a phone booth in the pouring rain, and tipped off the federal government. The anonymous tip went straight to the desk of the FBI's Specialized Financial Crime Squad, completely blowing the case wide open. The invisible genius was compromised. Within hours, a fleet of federal units localized his exact hiding spot, moving in for a synchronized arrest. The forensic hunt was officially closed. The operation transitioned into a swift, definitive tactical sweep. Stanley Rifkin hadn't been caught by a code change or advanced computer security tracking. He had been completely undone by his own need to brag. On November 5th, 1978, less than 2 weeks after walking up to that public street payphone, the world's first multi-million-dollar cyber heist came to a grinding halt. He was taken into federal custody under a total media storm, trapped by the very human errors he thought he was completely above. The brilliant plot concluded here. The stolen Soviet diamonds were seized, and the Swiss accounts were completely frozen by federal court order. But the story takes an unbelievable turn. While out on bail, awaiting trial, Stanley targeted the Union Bank of Los Angeles for a second wire heist. Completely unaware, he was passing the codes directly to a federal informant in a midnight sting operation. Special agents Norman White and Robin Brown proudly displayed the recovered fortune to the press. The bank's massive loss had been fully recovered. In March 1979, the gavel fell. Stanley Mark Rifkin was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. His simple 2-minute phone call changed the financial world forever, forcing banks globally to permanently abandon written passwords. He proved for the rest of history that the weakest link in any secure system is never the software. It is always human nature. Thank you for watching White Eyes Prey: True Terror Files. Hit subscribe to unlock more hidden histories of pre-internet fraud, and keep your eyes open. Until next time.